Barbara Kuriga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak on this third reading of the Radiation Safety Bill. And I would like to begin by congratulating the previous speaker because she obviously didn't have the opportunity that we had to listen to the wonderful explanations that the officials gave us, and I thought you gave a wonderful account, so thank you very much to the previous speaker. This Radiation Safety Bill is about establishing a modernised framework to protect the health and safety of people and the environment around radiation from harmful effects. And as other speakers have said, it will bring New Zealand in line with the international best practice. And it's modernising a bill that's 50 years old. And I have very vivid memories of being a new Member of Parliament, walking into my office, and my executive assistant said to me, "Today, Barbara, you've got 10 minutes to speak on radiation." And I thought, oh, okay. So the first thing I did was I went to Wikipedia, and it didn't make any more sense to me after that. Of course, we've had a lot of discussions since about ionising and non-ionising radiation, but at that stage it didn't make any sense at all. So the thing that really struck me about this bill at the time, and I remember the aspects that I took it from, was the fact that the bill was 50 years old. And it was interesting to me to note at the time that that was when The Sound of Music was released. It was also about when the Beatles released their song Yesterday. And I know we've had previous speakers today talking about the introduction of television. Well, I can't remember the introduction of television as such, but I can remember the introduction of coloured television, which was a very exciting time. So I remember in the House, when we first started debating this bill, we were having conversations about mince pies and microwaves and all sorts of things in an effort to understand this whole picture of radiation. And then I have to say it was fantastic when the officials came in, we were presented with some excellent information, some excellent clear graphs and charts that made the process of working through this piece of legislation much, much clearer. And even though I did a little bit of biology, chemistry and physics at school, the presentations we had, while they have not made me a scientist, they have given me a much clearer understanding of the process of ionising and non-ionising radiation. But I think it's important to remember as we as members of Parliament enact some of these pieces of legislation, that our primary role in this is to ensure that the piece of legislation is going to achieve what it's set out to achieve. And our role is to assess the situation to see if it really is going to protect our people from the harmful effects of radiation. And we all know that in the last 50 years we've come a long way. We're all carrying around devices, we've got things in our homes, the technology, the internet, the things we never ever dreamed about have come such a long, long way, and so has radiation. And so it's important to realise that these changes will help us in providing better and more modern health services. So as was mentioned before, X-rays and the like are a big part of this. There's also quite an element of this involved in dentistry, and these changes are going to help us do this more safely and protect our public and also protect the environment, because we have people in hospitals who are having X-rays. It's not only the person that has the X-ray that's exposed, it's the people who stand out, stand in the room or who are standing in the corridors, just making sure we've got the right standards in place so that not only the patient is safe, but all of those people around them are also very safe. And I have to say, we've come great advances with cancer in the last few years. And cancer radiation and chemotherapy waiting times are now at world gold standards. So it's really important to realise that not only are people getting a better, quicker service, but now the radiation will be protecting them, this legislation will be protecting them even further than it did before. It's important also that we've inserted, the committee has asked to insert a new clause, which is clause 92A, and that's requiring the Director of Radiation Safety to review each code of practice once every 5 years. So I think for me, looking at a piece of legislation that had been sort of 50 years on the table, it's really important that with the advances in technology we're making now, that those things are looked at and that the Director of Radiation will actually be active in, over each 5 year period to make sure that this doesn't drag on. So it's a real pleasure to be speaking on this bill today. I do want to commend the officials again, and I also do want to say it is wonderful to be working as part of the Health Select Committee under the chairmanship of Simon O'Connor, and with the members that we have in this group. We have worked extremely well together over time, and it's a pleasure to commend this bill to the House. Thank you.